Hello gentlemen and gentleladies, my name is Sir Stanger, and today I wanted to talk about a term in gaming referred to as tilting. And it's something I noticed that not a lot of people who play first-person shooters seem to use, but I think it might be more relevant in the first-person shooter genre than any other video game genre, and I'll explain why. Now, you may very well know what tilting is, and that's good for you, but not everybody does, so I am going to try and explain it as best I can as what tilting is, and to try and help you prevent it, to make sure that you don't tilt, or to help you deal with tilting when you do. Now, I had to do a little bit of research on this one, but what I found is that tilt is a term that was probably coined due to pinball machines. Now, those of you who've never played a pinball machine, you know, in this day and age, pinball machines are not as big as they used to be. Whenever the pinball used to go towards the hole down in the middle, sometimes people would try and tilt the pinball machine to make the ball go one way or the other, so that way it wouldn't go straight down into the hole. Well, that was referred to as a tilt, and some machines would actually say tilt up on the screens to let you know that you were cheating, and it wouldn't allow you to do it, so it would like shut down the flippers so you couldn't do anything. Basically considered a less optimal strategy than just accepting fate and, you know, playing the game. Now, from what I'm reading also, tilt is a term often used in poker for when a player gets frustrated and starts playing more aggressively and more stupidly that usually ends up in them losing. Basically playing worse because they're getting angry. I've never heard it used in poker. I don't really watch or play poker much myself, but the first time that I ever heard of the term tilt was actually while playing League of Legends. And yes, I did play League of Legends for a time, and I still go back to it and play it every now and again. But it's a term that I most commonly heard thrown around in League of Legends, and the term kind of stayed true there as it does with poker. It's whenever you get frustrated because you're losing a whole bunch. Either you've been losing a whole bunch of games, or the game that you're playing you've been dying a whole lot and doing very poorly, and so you start playing not as well. You start doing very bad, you start adopting strategies that are not very good, and you just end up costing yourself the game because of how badly you're doing and how angry you're getting. Now, the reason this term is used so often in League of Legends is because of how competitive a game it is. In fact, it's probably one of the most competitive games in the world right now. And so playing poorly because you're doing bad and getting angry about it is a very common thing to have happen. There are millions and millions of people who play this game, so there are lots of people who constantly are losing and winning all of the time, so you're bound to see tons of people who have been losing a ton of games and are getting very angry and playing very dumb because of it. So tilting has become a very popular term in League of Legends, which is where I heard it first, and so I've kind of carried that knowledge over into first-person shooters. Hopefully we can apply some of that here and kind of learn from those mistakes of the past, maybe try and make ourselves some better players for the future. So, first things first, let's go ahead and define tilting, and both what it is and what it is not. Tilting is not getting angry, playing bad on purpose, losing many games in a row, or trolling. Tilting is making poor decisions while frustrated about something. And you don't necessarily need to be frustrated about the game itself. It could be something in your personal life, it could be computer problems, car troubles, literally anything can make you go on tilt so that you're making poor decisions while playing a game. Now, when you go on tilt and you're so frustrated you can't even make clear decisions and your thought process is all just mucked up, there's really not much you can do, and you're about as helpful to your team as someone who's sleeping at their keyboard. And maybe even less so, because sometimes you'll make decisions that are even harmful to your team, potentially leading them into bad situations or telling them to do things that are maybe not the smartest decision to do at that point. So now that we've successfully identified what tilting is, let's go into how to stop being on tilt. When you're already on tilt, things aren't going your way, and you're playing very badly, let's go into how to avoid staying in that mind state. So I did my best to come up with a neat little acronym for you guys to help you guys exactly remember the steps of getting out of tilt. So these are the individual steps on how to get out of tilt when you are already tilted. So remember, when you're tilted, rage. Recognize you are on tilt. Admit it is your doing. Gain self-control. And entertain yourself. Well, gee, Sir Stanger, that's a pretty fancy word puzzle, but what's it mean? Well, let's go ahead and start from the top. So, you're already tilted, and you go ahead and apply rage. So, let's start with R. Recognize you are on tilt. The first step to solving a problem is admitting you're having a problem in the first place. And believe it or not, this can be the hardest step to do, especially for someone who plays first-person shooters. We are usually a pretty competitive group of people, and we don't like to admit when we're doing bad, or that we are bad, or that we're just not as good as other people. So taking a moment to stop and recognize that you're the reason that you're doing poorly is not the easiest thing to do for someone who plays first-person shooters a lot of the time, but it's the first thing you need to do if you're gonna stop tilting. Okay, so you have successfully recognized that you're the problem and you're what's causing yourself to play badly. Admit it's your doing. While this is pretty similar to the previous step, it's actually much more important because this is where we stop and tell ourselves, you are the problem. You are the one who is being angry, and you're playing stupid, and you're not going to win if you keep this up. There's no point in blaming teammates. You can't do anything about them, whether they're good, whether they're bad, it doesn't matter. You are what's causing you to play poorly. And if you find yourself dying over and over again, making mistakes that you're not usually making, it's your fault. And if you're able to admit to yourself that you are the problem, you're already halfway done with the battle. You've probably already conquered the biggest problem with tilting in and of itself, is that thinking that it's not your fault, thinking that it's not your problem, when in fact you are what's causing yourself to play bad. So once you've conquered A in rage, you've already almost solved your tilting. Gain self-control. This is the part where you have to sit down and try and calm yourself down from the situation. Really deactivate yourself. Try and not be so frustrated about whatever it is that's frustrating you, and just cool off. This will usually mean trying to disengage from whatever it is that's frustrating you, so you might have to stop playing the game for a little bit, or maybe play a different part of the game that isn't as competitive, or that you don't care about winning so much. In TF2, when I go on tilt, I usually just start going onto rocket jumping servers and practicing my rocket jumping, because it's a nice relaxing activity for me anyway, and it helps me kind of disengage from the game, play something I don't care so much about playing, and, you know, I don't really mind losing, because you can't lose at rocket jumping. When I play Overwatch, I'll usually switch on over to the new arcade mode, or I'll just stop playing the game altogether, since that game's kind of competitive to begin with. But you will find that many times you might need to stop playing the game, maybe go read a book, watch some TV, some YouTube, maybe some Sir Stanger videos, I mean, you know, whatever. But this is usually a good time to go back and reflect on why it is that you were angry or frustrated in the first place, and really kind of realize that it was probably a silly reason. And, you know, maybe it wasn't a silly reason, maybe you do have some personal problems going on, but, you know, if it's about video games, it's almost guaranteed to be a silly reason.
It's only a game. Why do you have to be mad?
Entertain yourself. Very similar to the last point, entertain yourself is the step in which you step back into the game and you start slowly trying to get yourself back into this competitive mindset, but without taking it so seriously. So you don't want to be so upset when you start dying, when things don't go your way, because this is what happens in games. The other players are just trying to win just as much as you are, so don't blame them for trying their best. And it may be a few days even before you go from the G to the E step. You might take a couple days to gain self-control back and to really kind of get yourself out of that horrible mindset that's just going to hurt yourself in the long run. And then going back into entertaining yourself and playing the game again. It could be any amount of time between those two, and that's perfectly fine. Take a break if you need to. There's no reason to start raging over nothing. And the amount of time it takes for us to gain self-control and go back into the game, it differs for every single person. Some people can do it in a matter of seconds. They don't even need to leave the competitive game they're currently playing. They can step back, maybe start some music. That's what I do. I like listening to music, so I'll listen to some music and I'll just kind of get myself out of that competitive mindset a little bit and just become a little bit less serious about what I'm doing, so that way I can actually focus on what I'm doing more than I was before, because before I was just focused on how much I was losing, all the debts that I had. You know, it just makes it a lot more difficult to succeed. So if you get yourself out of that mindset, you'll find yourself having a lot more success in the long run. And congratulations, you have successfully maneuvered your way through the entire rage process and gotten yourself out of tilt. That's a really important thing to do. It's not easy for everyone, and some people may never be able to do it ever, so you just accomplished something quite difficult if you were able to follow through all of the steps. Now, the one thing that we haven't covered is trying to avoid going into tilt at all. How do we avoid getting into that mindset that's just going to harm us? Well, there's not really an easy solution for this one, because any number of things could be frustrating you in your life that's causing you to go on tilt, and it's kind of hard to say an absolute solution for all of them. But in general, what I would say is stick with the R in rage, and recognizing that you're going on tilt. Recognize when you're starting to get frustrated, and when things aren't going your way, and when you think you might be about to start tilting. Because if you can tell when you're about to start getting really upset, you might be able to stop yourself from getting there at all, and just kind of chill out, calm down, put on some music, and just kind of do a really quick process of the entire rage acronym. Because if you can just kind of do it all at once, you might be able to stop yourself from going on tilt at all. You may not have to actually go through the entire process. It takes several minutes, maybe a couple hours to actually cool yourself off. You can just go straight into the I'm getting too angry, I'm gonna put on some music to distract myself and get back to the game. Anyway guys, that was my guide on tilting, what it is and how to deal with it. I hope you guys found it useful, and I really hope that you guys can avoid yourself from going on tilt in the future. I really hope that I help myself, because I know that I go on tilt from time to time as well, and so I hope that I can help myself, not be on tilt as often with these steps as well. And these are the ones that I do follow myself, so anytime that I end up finding myself going on tilt, I follow this process, and that's how I get myself out. So hopefully this helps you guys as well. But I'm also curious if this helped you guys out, so please let me know down in the comment section if it did. If not, maybe let me know how you deal with going on tilt, because I'd be very curious to find out how other people like to handle this situation other than me, because obviously I only have my own experiences to go off of, so, whatever. And one last reminder, guys, I am doing a Q&A video again very soon. If you have any questions for me that you would like to have answered in a video, please let me know in the comment section of my last Q&A video. I will leave the link down in the description. Please go check it out, watch the video, maybe see if your question was already answered. If not, please leave the question in the comment section. I'll be reviewing it shortly for all of the questions, and I will only be accepting submissions for a short while longer. So if you want those questions answered, please do that soon. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching, and with that, let's keep the internet classy. I'll see you then. Hello, my name is Sir Stanger. Hello, my name is Sir Stanger. Hello, my name is
Excuse me!
My name is Sir Stanger. Hello,
Can I have the attention of the internet?
My name
For
is
1 second!
My name is Sir Stanger.